Good evening, everybody. Tonight, it's now 5 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Village Theater for our first ever Zoomed public meeting since the COVID stuff hit us. First public meeting where the public's been welcomed back in. So I'm going to ask everybody, kick off with let's be patient as we get through not only the technology that we're working with at the new facility, but also the process to get us through the meeting this evening. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? We haven't done that in a while, guys. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ask Clerk Seegers to call the roll, and with us being public, do we have to have it a voice roll call?
Nope, that is not required.
Okay.
In-person meeting, so we can go back to our normal procedures.
Okay, so
So, Trustee Anthony.
Present.
Foster.
Good evening.
Graham Hudek.
Good evening.
Let the record reflect Clerk Segrist is in attendance. Slavens.
Good evening.
Snyderman.
I am here.
And Williams.
hello. Call for adoption of the agenda with two changes, dropping item G2 and then adding would be G0 and G0A. Or actually, let's do it at the end, Mike, because we've got some other things going on. Let's call them G10 and G11, if that's okay.
Oh, which one would you like to be G10?
Okay, I marked the public hearing,
Set public hearing?
set public hearing for the liquor license for tailgate
Uh-huh.
as G10, and then consider approval of the emergency purchase order to replace the rooftop unit as G11.
Lovely.
Greg, we got an issue?
I'm typing in this number. Right. When I type in, let's take a look. But the link should just be the number.
Are we projecting currently off of Mike's computer or another?
Off the camera up there.
Off the camera upstairs, okay.
Jake's gonna email that to you.
Because we're off the network, I don't have the board packet.
Right.
So.
Jake's gonna email the link to you right now, so you
Lovely.
just click on it and get in.
Yeah, that's what I just said, we're going to remove that, delete it. Yeah, just as Diana just asked, we're going to delete G2 from the agenda this evening. That was the request for the agenda. Delete G2 and then add G10 and G11. And as soon as Michael says go, I'll call for that motion.
So, Mr. Supervisor, I move to adopt the agenda as amended, removing item G2, adding item G10 and G11.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We have one set of minutes for approval. Call for a motion to approve the minutes from the May 19th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now would be the time in the agenda for citizens' non-agenda items. And I would bet many of you are interested in sharing with us your opinions or thoughts on the schedule that we published in terms of facilities and when things will be opening. So could I, by a show of hands, how many people would like to speak to that this evening? Okay. All right. What I'm going to ask is kind of start forming a line that goes out into the hallway with social distancing, 6 foot between you. And we have microphones here at the two sides for public comment. So those who are interested in speaking, please move to the microphones at this time, and then just start a line that forms going back out the hallway a little bit. Again, none of this is normal, guys.
It's up the stairs.
Okay, has everybody that's going to be interested in speaking at this time kind of moved out towards the line? And then what I'd say is, okay, we'll alternate, just go, I would say stage right first and then stage left. So, sir, if you would please, if you would open up for us, and then the next speaker. And I would ask that each person, it's not a requirement, but it would be appreciated if you could share your name and address, as well as please limit the comments to 3 minutes. That's the request. So please, sir, if you're ready.
Yes, my name is Ed Anderson, and I've been doing lacrosse programs for the community for the last 10 years. I do camps and clinics, and as of last Friday, I learned that the park fields in Plymouth would be open, and this is a week ago Friday, so I immediately put a registration platform together to find out how many people in the community would want to jump in to my program. I now have 105 players registered. We practiced 3 times last week. We have 5 teams, and I have 20 coaches. So there are 20 coaches over 5 teams and 100 players. So roughly 5 players per coach. We run our practices in a way that the age groups are separated by times. So I have a U10 group that's on for an hour and a half. There's a 30-minute break in between, and then there's another age group that comes on. So there's no mixing in the parking lot of teams. We have nice separation. The sport of lacrosse is, of course, outside, and we can conduct our business with social distancing. We are not using contact at this point. The parents and the players have overwhelmingly appreciated the opportunity to just get back on the field. That's been in Plymouth. So ordinarily, I'd like to be running my programs with Anne Marie as part of the Canton Rec program. I've done that for 10 years very successfully under the brand C1X Lacrosse. And with the council's permission, of course, we want to bring our families back to Canton to practice. And then ideally, I'm getting requests from a lot of teams that would really love the opportunity to scrimmage in a respectful and a way that we're adhering to guidelines and just getting the kids outside to play. The joy on these kids has just been great, and so that's my request to the committee.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate your comments. And just an announcement for everybody is our parks and trails are open. And so teams have been coming out and have been practicing and playing out on the fields. Not playing games, but been practicing. So the parks are open and available. Then also, Director Owenberger sent his crews out to begin to open up the playscapes again. So that is happening with all of the facilities except for out by the North Pavilion off of Heritage Drive there. That's under reconstruction right now. So again, parks are open for practices. Ma'am, go ahead.
Before we continue, though,
Yes.
Is there a opportunity to discuss the possibility of bringing teams together in a scrimmage-type activity?
At this point, what we have been doing is essentially following between the governor's guidelines as well as the CDC guidelines, and ask that folks who are out do follow those guidelines. In terms of saying open up for gameplay again, that decision is not going to be open for a just back and forth discussion. In fact, what I'm doing with you right now is a little bit unusual, but the circumstances are unusual.
Yeah.
And happy to have side meetings with anybody on a one-off with Director Hohenberger and myself to discuss further detail.
Fantastic. So should I set that meeting up with you people? Or?
Yeah, that'd be fine, yeah. That'd be fine.
Okay. please make a note, Ed Anderson will be setting up a meeting.
We will.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to come here today. I'm Barbara Bloom. I am the Managing Director for Spotlight on Youth. We are in our 11th year here at the Village Theater, and this is our home. We service an amazing number of youth every year, doing plays, musicals. We've had summer camps, workshops, and the list goes on, all theater related. With the opening of the theater in January and with the dates that the theater has given us for this season, we would in effect have no season, which would mean a lot of kids would not have the opportunity to be in a play, to participate, to learn, to grow, to gain confidence. We're not out to make Broadway stars. We're out to see that kids can get up in front of class and deliver a report and feel confident about what they're doing and have a whole lot of fun while they're doing it all. I am here to kindly and respectfully request that doing it safely within guidelines, we will be able to put on shows. It would require several things. One, instead of using the studio, which does not allow for any kind of spacing, we would need to be able to use the main stage here. As far as the kids, we would take temperatures, we would make sure that hand sanitizers were in abundance and participate. We have teachers, we have people that are in healthcare as part of our group, and we would rely on them to make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep the children safe. So I respectfully ask that you allow us to participate at the theater in a safe way, much like we're doing this evening with spacing, etc. It would also require that the 200 per seat rule be foregone for this particular COVID-19 predicament we all find ourselves in that if we were to block off every other row and practice social distancing, we could probably only get maybe 100 people in here. And that's fine. We'll work within whatever parameters you will allow. But our fond request is that you will allow it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Bob Garrett. I live in Woodlawn Drive in Canton. Obviously, I want to thank you folks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I kind of represent about the seniors, or a group called the Romeos from the Summit. There's 25 or 30 of us that are all retired, and we meet once a month. I've been a member of the Summit since the place opened, and I do believe that keeping us from participating in activities until the middle of October is kind of extreme. There's a lot of us who don't have any, excuse me, any other thing to do. It's kind of like our cheers. We go there, we meet, we socialize, have a good time, work out, and then go home. If you keep it to the middle of October, that's a long time for the guys not to be together. I think if you would reassess your time that you got us down, we'd really appreciate it, and so would the guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Jean Pruitt, and I'm the president of Better Than Ever Productions. Thank you very much for giving me the time to speak on behalf of our organization. Our group is, I'm also the assistant director for SOY, so ditto everything Barbara said. Our group is a group that was founded initially as a senior theater group. We have evolved to where we've been doing a lot of shows here in the Biltmore studio. We have been working on a show that has just 6 actors in it that we would very much like to be able to perform in person for people. We've been working on it virtually, but as you know, theater actually requires some physical movement. People have to get their blocking and know where to sit, stand, move, etc. What we're asking for is we would very much like to be able to perform this show either in August or September of this year. We had another show that we were working on in the springtime. We'd spent a great deal of money and time on that show, and that show got canceled 2 weeks before the show was to be performed. So we got literally no income for this year whatsoever for the shows that we have done. So we really need to be able to keep this alive and working, and we really think that if we were able to actually do the show here on the main stage, it would be really no different than what we're doing right now, only we would be the ones that are up there where you're sitting right now, and then the audience members would be out here. And obviously, it's very simple for us to make it safe for everybody, and I think that we can do it. All the actors that are in the show have been with each other already for a couple of rehearsals. We haven't had any problems. There haven't been any kind of anybody getting sick or anything like that. So we really think that this is something that we would be able to do, that we can do safely. And so we are asking for your help in this and help us to continue to bring the fine theater to community, to Canton's community, and allow us to continue sooner rather than later. And just to help everybody to understand, if you were to say, okay, the theater can open in September, that doesn't mean that a show is automatically going to be ready. We have to be able to come in and rehearse for at least 6 weeks beforehand. So if we could do the show in August, we would need it open by the beginning of July. If we did a show in September, we would need it open by the beginning of August. So this is what we're hoping for. I think the numbers are showing that things are improving, things are getting better, and so we're asking for your help, and we're hoping that you will allow us to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Paul Hardy, and we as the members of Spotlight Players and the Board of Directors ask the Board of Trustees to review any recent decisions they've made with respect to reopening of the Village Theater. While the website still reads that the theater was closed to the public for ticketed events for the foreseeable future, speculation has been swirling that the community that it was not opening till January of 2021. With the governor lifting restrictions more and more every day, we ask the Board of Trustees to look at the minimum open the theater in late August, early September, so that performers and crew can utilize the space to live stream performances to the theater's patron base and beyond. Many of the theatrical rights companies and ticketing companies have been changing their policies and business models in April 2020 to open up the rights to live streaming of shows and to enable the pre-purchase so patrons can have access to the link and view the live performance. It is our recommendation that the Board of Trustees convene a panel consisting of members of each of the township's partner groups and the Board of Trustees to discuss policies and procedures for reopening the theater, at least on its minimal basis. Canton is an art-rich community, and the theater is the heart of it. Please consider our suggestions and know that we, along with other partner groups, are here to help with the reopening process.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Trigg. I am part of the small theater group that Jean is part of, and I was also part of the cast of the show that got canceled on us. I just wanted to respectfully say that I don't agree with the theater being closed for that long. We're a very, very small group. We have a very, very limited budget. We have already spent the money on the rights to put this show on. If we don't get to do that and we don't recoup any of the money from that, we are very much in danger of our group being disbanded, which would be awful, because community theater is great for everyone, gives people an opportunity to get out of themselves, to have fun with a group of people and interact, and it is cathartic. And right now, I think we could all use a lot of that. So I'm thinking that if you would allow us to put our show on in September, that there would be a lot of very, very grateful people that would like to come out and see that show and get away from some of the madness that's going on right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. For the folks who are in the wings and the lines, we have a theme here that September, October is the ask to open up the theater. If you're in line to say basically the same thing, I would respectfully say you don't need to. We get the point. Well heard. We hear you. But if you want a different topic, please do share. Or if you have a different view of what's been presented so far. So, sir.
Yes, my name's Dan Kraft. I live on Pavilon in Canton. I do want the theaters open, but that's not what I'm talking about today. Everybody on the board, I did email you, so I'm going to keep this very short, and hopefully you read it, and thank you to those who responded to me. But I want to talk specifically about Canton Sports Center and the need to reopen that sooner than we've heard. A couple things just where I come from. So I run the Plymouth Canton Force basketball organization, represents over 1,200 youth and parents and so forth. I'm the president of the Canton High School Baseball Booster Club. I'm also on the subcommittee of PCCS to reopen their facilities. So I have a lot of knowledge on what's going on. And simply, what I want to ask, I've gotten a lot of response, and I do respect that we have to have a plan, and it has to be a safe plan. What my request to everybody here tonight is let's get that plan, because that is what seems to be missing in the responses I've received is right now what's going on, and I put this in my email but so everybody can hear, is kids cannot play at the Canton Sports Center. They're simply leaving to Ohio and Indiana. They are going out, they're coming back, right? And you can't stop the kids from playing baseball. So one thing is what I look at in youth sports to open that's a huge mecca. Obviously, it is a benefit not only to you, but to the surrounding businesses, Jimmy John's, Dick's, so forth. They all benefit from it. So my request is to quickly find a plan, and hopefully that plan will allow you to open it sooner, much sooner. My recommendation to you is June 15th, but do it in a way that's responsible, which is there are a lot of adults that play there. I think the adults can start before kids and follow that with a plan, then that allows kids to come in, give Canton Sports Center a little more time to prepare for that. So again, I thank you, and I just urge you to get that plan together, and let's open up sooner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Alyssa Parkinson. I'm from Roosevelt Street, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about from a parent perspective. I have a 13-year-old child who is in Spotlight on Youth, and this whole COVID-19 has been very hard on her. She is holed up in my basement, and I need to get her out. And the way that we get her out doing things is theater. That's her thing. She doesn't play sports, she does theater. And so I would hope that you would, as the gentleman just said, come up with a plan that would allow the theater to open and be productive sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and in terms of a detailed plan, staff, the admin staff, the leadership team from Canton Township, not only for our building facilities, but for every facilities, have an extremely detailed opening plan that's already been drafted. It's not completed at this point. There's still some tweaking going on, so we do know what the plan will be when we do open. So thank you for that suggestion. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Doug DiCarlo. I'm a coach for one of the local baseball teams. I was actually coming here to ask why the Canton Softball Park is being delayed to being open. There's other fields around, like the Legacy up in Brighton. There's Macomb that's opening up earlier. There's everybody else that I'm taking my team to play tournaments in prior to the opening of the softball park. My question is if I'm taking my team and my kids are already actually practicing now, why not open it up so Canton can get the revenue from all the other tournaments that they want to, that they're going to be scheduling there? Second thing is you're opening up so late in the season. Now you have high school starting. So then a lot of the teams are not going to be playing in the tournaments the later that you open up the Canton Sports Complex. USSSA is a huge organization that pays lots of money to have a lot of big tournaments. Well, I can't take my team there if half of my team is now going to be going to high school ball, so I'm not going to be playing in a lot of the tournaments in there. So I guess my thought, my process in my head is, why aren't we opening like every other city around us? Now I have to go there or Ohio or Indiana to play my tournaments. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm Carla Lenhoff, and I am here to speak on behalf of several of the people that actually work at this theater. And we right now are at an economic loss. I currently am not collecting unemployment, but I'm here to say that knowing every inch of this building in the way I do and the other managers do, we don't really feel that it's safe to open right now. We feel that the dressing rooms, the concessions area, the bathrooms themselves, I mean, you'd put 2 people in the bathroom at the same time and that's about it. So we are just urging the trustees to take the same view they have. And I mean, there's nobody in this room that wants this theater open more than me. I love this place. But right now, we just don't think it's safe. We don't think rehearsals can be safe. There's no way you can social distance as a group of actors. And, you know, unless they're all living in the same house together, they could be spreading something that they don't even have they know. We've been through so much, all of us have, through this quarantine. Let's err on the side of caution so we don't start it up again. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
My name's Mike Benna. I live right down the block there, River's Edge. Looking to get these splash pads opened up for these kids to get somewhere to go. If you go on Nextdoor and Facebook, some of the Canton discussion pages, you'll see that there's a lot of kids get no place to go. We just had a complaint while there were standing at least a dozen or so kids in front of the fountain, blocking the elevator to a medical facility where the elderly were trying to get up to, and they just weren't social distancing. If we had a place for them to go, like the splash pads in some of these parks that are opening up all over the state, but not Canton, I think that would benefit the safety of a lot of people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Steuben, Polo Drive. I just wanted to add a couple comments on the youth sports speakers who were before me, 2 specifically. One, I want to make the comparison to Plymouth. We're very tied to them as a community. Their baseball fields are open, as an example. A lot of our youth programs are moving over there. It's causing a huge congestion issue in terms of capacity, not necessarily people on top of each other, but I could speak to my team. We lost our game fields with the closure of Canton Sports Center, so while we can practice, we have nowhere to play. And second, I know there's been a lot of discussion about Canton Sports Center and a lot of attention is on the tournaments. I'd like to point out that tournaments on the weekends that USSSA bring in are, the crowds there are very large. The games midweek where GCYBSA plays or PCLL or I represent a travel organization, those crowds are much smaller. So you can easily stay within the governor's guidelines of 100 people per field without an issue. So if we're looking at Canton Sports Center, I ask everyone to realize there's 2 different markets there. There's the tournaments on the weekend, and there's also the local community who look to use them on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Smith, Charing Cross. I'm the president of GCBY organization, baseball organization, have been for over 7 years. I won't repeat what Mike just said, but we can do this safely with kids playing games. We need to get some normalcy back for these kids. If we don't, we're going to run into this when school does start, of them trying to get back into the way that burn off all this energy that they have. We have volunteers ready to go. We also have our guidelines, our rules that everyone will follow, and we can do this in a safe way for us to be able to play games. That's the GCBY games. The tournaments, I know all the tournament directors that run the tournaments there. That may be a little more of a challenge, but I think it's doable. Right now, everybody's going to Flint, Toledo, all the surrounding areas to play. And of course, it is taking away revenue from Canton as well. So I also own an indoor baseball facility, so training the kids is important, but I'm not concerned with that. I'm more concerned with them being able to get out and play. Okay? And if you need help with the rules or how to do it, I'm available.
Yeah, I'm interested in your indoor baseball facility. Where is that located?
It's inside Arctic Edge. It's called the Lab.
What city?
Canton.
Oh, in Canton. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
Good evening. My name is Rob Kneber. I live at 387 Princeton Drive, Canton. That's basically the corners of Sheldon and Cherry Hill. I'm here to discuss the letter that was sent out on May 16th regarding sidewalk repair.
Oh, sir, can I
Yes,
stop?
go ahead.
We're going to, that's a specific public hearing that we're about to have in a minute. As soon as the public
soon as
comment
this
is
is wrapped
done,
up?
then we're going to get into the public hearing. So
Very
you're
well,
up
thank-
next on the agenda, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Hope he wasn't waiting long.
Yeah, if there's anybody in line to talk about sidewalks, that'll be next, after we get through the public comments. Okay, please.
Good evening. My name is Jim Harkins. I'm a 25-year resident and currently the president of the Canton Soccer Club. I want to thank the board for a little bit of time. We can appreciate the conservative nature of the steps being taken, especially around youth sports. You've heard the concerns relative to lacrosse, which is judged a medium sport like soccer, as well as the baseball groups. So I think I'd close. I won't echo a lot of the comments that the other speakers made, but we're trying to make sure that as other clubs in Ann Arbor and Novi have already started training this week with some social distance rules in place, we fully expect to be in some form of scrimmage/contact level within a week and a half or two. We've got a meeting with the Michigan State Soccer Association coming up this Friday to help firm up those rules, but we'd like to offer helping to ensure maybe a meeting with Canton Leisure Services that the policies in place, the rules and safety protocols that are established are aligned with what the state brings down to us, as well as what we're monitoring with the Michigan High School Association. As the prior speakers mentioned, the high school sports, soccer in my case, ramps up next week as well. So if we can support the township in that regard so that safe protocols are happening with the 2,000 plus families that we bring to the parks, we'd gladly bring that in as we start to see a pickup during this time of the pickup games that have no social distancing going on. But we want to do what we can to help serve the township as well as the families and bring kids back gradually and as safely as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gary Marks. I live over on Sults Court here in Canton. I'm a local small business owner, and full disclosure, I'm also a part-time employee of Leisure Services here. And I think one of the things that this whole group is really looking for information about is what are the metrics, what is the source of the information that you guys used to close everything down until October? That doesn't align with the governor's numbers. It doesn't align with the CDC numbers. It seems very, very arbitrary. If we could get some information about why these things are closed down for that long. No other community is using that date. Where did November 1st come from? Just the date after September? It seems like a very long time from now.
And is Gary the last speaker, or is there anybody else in the hallway who'd like to speak at this point? No, I think that's Jim from the President's Soccer Club. So, okay.
I received a statement that was emailed to
Okay,
me
please,
to be
yeah,
read.
for the public record.
And this is, members of the Canton Township Board of Trustees, these unprecedented times have caused feelings of uncertainty and fear and have presented new and unique challenges. As a resident of Canton community, I applaud your efforts to make the safety of residents and staff your #1 priority. Because no one knows exactly the impact COVID-19 will have, the safe and easy answer is to cancel programs, keep facilities closed, and minimize services. I wonder, though, is it the right or only answer? People are hurting financially, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. The isolation and fear so many have experienced is scary and in many cases debilitating. As conditions evolve in our community, I believe Canton government is positioned to guide and help the community toward healing. Opening facilities and safely bringing residents together to improve their physical and mental health and well-being would certainly signal a message of hope that is desperately needed by so many. Many resources are available that provide guidance and suggestions for reopening of municipalities. Additionally, Canton government is recognized throughout the state and nation for the quality and competence of its employees. The accreditation of numerous Canton departments demonstrates innovation, leadership, and professionalism. I am confident with all departments working together to develop a plan for the opening of facilities and services of the COVID-19 environment, the residents of Canton will appreciate and support the efforts. Will there be some risk? Absolutely. It is impossible to eliminate all the risks. There is risk in everything we do each and every day. But with the leadership, experience, and capabilities of the entire Canton staff working together, the risk can be minimized. Managing risk is something that the employees demonstrate each and every day and have the training and education to do. Yes, things will be different. The new normal will most likely be smaller classes, virtual activities, limited capacity in buildings, and no large-scale events, to name a few. But opportunities for the community to gather safely and reconnect with the neighbors would be a huge step in the healing process and worth the risk. There will be challenges hiring and training staff, retrofitting facilities, and continually disinfecting equipment, but there are solutions. Canton has continually demonstrated solution-based leadership by identifying the problems and challenges and finding reasonable and affordable solutions. There is no doubt that appropriate protocols can be put in place that allows for the safe reopening of facilities. The federal and state government, who typically require layer upon layer of paperwork, can streamline processes for both employees and citizens. Canton certainly has the capability to do so as well. The financial strains of COVID-19 are frightening. Revenues have diminished significantly. Expenses are unknown, and state and federal support for local government is undefined. Eventually, the financial picture will become clear, most likely difficult, but known. The long-term cost of physical inactivity, isolation, and fear cannot be measured. Initiating opportunities and outlets for residents to safely, socially interact and engage in physical activity is priceless and will serve as an investment that will pay dividends for years to come, resulting in a healthy, involved, and engaged community. Decades ago, the Canton Board of Trustees made the decision to invest in facilities, programs, and services for its residents. The result was a thriving, diverse, supportive community. I encourage the Board of Trustees to lead the effort of healing for the Canton community by allowing for the safe and reasonable reopening of facilities and services. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion, and thank you for all of you. Thank you to all of you for your leadership during these exceedingly difficult times. Ann Conklin, former Leisure Services Director.
She knows. She knows. Okay. All right.
That was the only comment that was submitted to me that asked to be read into the record.
Very good. And Ann is obviously somebody who's well known to everybody in this room and is a tremendous good human being for sure. Public comment is closed on for right now. So is there any board comment or discussion or any points? Because there's been several meetings internally since this thing began by the leadership team, and this is the first time that the full board has come together, right, since COVID and had a conversation about this topic at all. Is there any board comment at this point? Go ahead, Stephen.
So, to start, I'm sure everybody here will say the same thing in terms of we hear you, we're residents of this community too, and we want things to open up too, where we've been in isolation just as long as everyone else has. And so we understand. My kids have been in many of the programs that were named tonight, so I understand that. So as a board member, I think of it from having to make decisions, take votes on things. And so I want to make it clear as to what I would need in order to make decisions on the things that were discussed tonight. So we have different parts of what we're responsible for. We have the summit, which was mentioned, this theater, the fields, different programs, camps, summer camps, all the different aspects of the rich community that we are. But in order to make an informed decision, I'm going to need information. And some of those things are the protocols that were mentioned. What are they? I mean, usually board members don't get into the details on some of those things, you know, how different programs operate, but these are different times. And people's lives and their health is a very important topic, and I think we need to know what specifically for each program, each aspect, what are the protocols that are being proposed? How is it going to work? Not just for participants, for parents, for audience. I mean, these have to be detailed things. Who's going to monitor those things? I mean, saying the words we're going to have these protocols doesn't mean we're going to have these protocols. You actually have to do them, and we have to monitor them. How is that going to be done? How are we occasionally going to be monitoring that what is said is going to be done is actually being followed? What is the financial aspect to our community? What is the financial impact on starting these things and not starting these things? Some of these programs already lose money and are subsidized. Some of them make money. We need to look at them each individually. What standards are going to be used for those protocols? I mean, there are many standards. There's standards for baseball. There's national associations for each sport. There's the Michigan High School Association. They've put out their own standards. What are those standards that we're going to be looking at? So what I would like to see is a study session on this topic so we can get into the details of what we need in order to make these decisions. How are we going to handle equipment sharing? How are we going to handle, one gentleman talked about soccer and there will be contact in the future. What does that mean? Are we going to have full contact, and how is that going to be handled? Are the governor's guidelines in line with that? Are national guidelines in line with that? Are we comfortable with that? Those are all things that I think we need to discuss as a board, as a community, as a team, to understand what we will and won't do. So that's basically my view after listening to everybody and thinking about it as well.
Summer?
So I'd just kind of like to echo what my colleague Stephen said. I do think that we need a study session on this issue. I think it's a very important issue. I think not only is it about physical health and safety, but it's also about the finances of the township. I spent the last couple of days going through the CDC and the governor's executive order and the Michigan High School Athletic Association's recommendations for youth sports and for social distancing and capacity when you're indoors or when you're outdoors. And, one of the things that concerns me is if we were to open the theater, the current executive order calls for 25% capacity inside of a theater. So how do we, provide that service to residents and to theater groups, knowing that it's probably going to end up costing us money unless we end up charging more. So that's one of the things that I want to consider as we think about reopening. Also, it has been said a lot that COVID-19 doesn't have that huge of an impact on children. But it's not just children, it's parents, it's grandparents, it's also our staff members that we have to think about protecting. So I would like to echo the call for a study session to talk about this further.
Just make a real quick comment. I'll echo what my colleagues have said. And one thing I want to make clear, there was a press release that was set out that the trustees had voted on closing everything, and I want to make that clear. That was not a true statement. Hopefully everybody saw the revised news press on that. Safety is a huge issue. We want to make sure our community is safe. And the financial aspects. Revenue sharing is down. We know things are slowing down a little bit, so we want to be fiscally responsible. Are we subsidizing? Are we going to have to increase fees? So these are all big considerations that we need to have. We have the parks. The guys are coming back to mow, so the parks are available, the playscape. But the buildings like the Village Theater, the Summit, the ballpark, those are things that we really have to look at, because how much can we afford to subsidize? Thanks.
John, Anne Marie, I'll just start with John. We'll work our way back to me. If there's anything you'd like to say, you don't have to.
Well, it's good to see some citizens in the audience. Usually we hold our meetings, we could hear a pin drop, but it's good. I think the problem, we're all concerned. I was at a meeting the other night, and there was a lady there that had a mild case of the COVID-19, and she said, and she's been sick before, but she's a middle-aged lady in decent health, said she wanted to die. It was that bad that she wanted to die. I think the problem is that we've all been led, the decisions have to be made by data. It can't be made because I want to play softball or I don't want to go out or, no, it has to be the decisions that we make as the board as to what's going to open, when it's going to open, has to be determined by data. The problem is the data is screwed up. The federal government data, you know, you should use the mask, you don't use the mask. It's not a pandemic, it is a pandemic. And then you get the state, their regulations, liquor stores are open, but you can't take a boat out. So there are different rules and regulations that government, state and federal, have tried to impose upon the citizens that don't make any sense. That's why I think citizens are upset. We're in a predicament as to what to decide, when to open, when and how to open. I have two sons that are on that play softball. They're playing in Livonia. They're playing in Livonia. Can't play in Canton. I have a grandson that's on the Salem junior varsity baseball team. He hasn't played all year. Kind of, you know, I'm not an athlete by any stretch of imagination, but I would like to see him play baseball. So there are conflicts wherever we do. The decisions have to be made to open as quick as we possible, as much as we can possibly open, as safely as we can open. Thanks, Pat.
Henry?
Thank you. I really appreciate everybody coming here and giving their opinions. For as many of you as we've heard speak tonight, we've gotten that many emails on both sides for pro-opening, opening slowly. It's important to say that we open safely. Personally, I lost 3 beloved matriarchs during these last 3 months, so I understand the other side of it. I understand the disease and the lockdowns and what it's caused a family. It cost our family a great deal. As a parent of children who play competitively, my children are competitive players and everything, I understand that too. I have kids who are chomping at the bit, and they've, thank goodness we have a big field behind our house because they're running around there all the time to play their own sports. But I do have to say that not only do we have to think of what's happening to us at home, but what the consequences could be. And it's important that we realize what our community needs and we have to oversee our community. So as my colleagues on the board said, we not only have to make sure that this plan, I just received the plan last night. I think the trustees, we just received the plan last night.
A draft plan.
Oh, the
That's
draft,
not
okay.
finalized,
The draft
guys.
plan
Not
last
to be
night.
shared.
So I was able to look at it. It's important to understand that how that plan meshes with the CDC and the Michigan State Plan, so that's important. It's important to understand how it impacts our furloughed employees, how it impacts our budget. So thank you for the plan, but I really would like to see that. I'd like to also see how we, as Summer said, we subsidize this facility, we subsidize the summit. We have state revenues. I think, Wendy, we're losing about $700,000 in state revenue. We subsidize the summit from the budget about $1 million, or that's during normal times when we receive fees. We subsidize this theater at about $500,000 a year, and that's when we receive fees. We also had to refund a lot of the classes, right? We refunded a lot of classes. So that means we had to send more money out of our general budget to replace, to you residents who paid for classes. So we gave your money back. We refunded shows that were going to happen. So that's a really heavy impact on our budget. Since that's all coming out of the general budget, what are we going? Let's say we open everything quickly. Now we have to use that money that we don't have or we might not have. What do we give up? What kind of? We have to really look at that. That's really important. So that's part of it. We have to understand the mental impact. Everything has to be looked at, and I really think that that's important. Also in the plan is the pinch points. As one of the residents said, bathrooms are a pinch point. Porta potties are a pinch point. So when people go, use these fields, if they go into a bathroom, is there going to be cleaning in between? I mean, those considerations have to be taken in also. So I would just like to say that, it's really important, like everybody has said. We also have to look at being creative. I mean, What about exercising in the park? I work for Ford Motor Company. We did 2 yoga sessions with 400 people on the front lawn of World Headquarters. I mean, it's doable. It was an incredible. We have huge fields. We don't have to do everything inside. What about theater outside? We have a great pavilion. People can spread apart outside. There's a lot of things we can do outdoors that we don't have to do inside if it impacts our budget. So let's think a little bit out of the box. How can we have art in the park? Tomorrow, my daughter is graduating from Liberty Middle School. And as some of you know, if you have kids in the school, what the teachers have been doing is they've been setting up various areas that the parents drive to so the kids can look at it. So they thought outside the box. They thought how we can do things outside. So I think we need to be creative. You know, that should be part of the plan also. How can we take things we've done out inside and do it outside to save the health of our residents and maybe even, you know, save some of our budget. But thank you for coming.
Yeah, a lot of good conversation, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because the residents think we had this conversation, right? It was put out to the residents on social media that we had this conversation. They think we made a decision about making sure that these facilities did not open up, and over half the people at this table, from the elected standpoint, did not have that conversation. They were not involved in that discussion. They did not see a plan. They did not give input into that plan. So A, that statement was factually inaccurate. And that bothers me, not because of people are angry and they're going to blame us. That's fine. I ran for office. I will deal with that. That blames me because that insinuates a violation of law. We can only meet in an open meeting with the public and vote in a quorum. And the assumption that we approve the plan outside of an open meeting with no quorum, that's essentially saying we broke the law, the Open Meetings Act, which we didn't, right? And that's my number one issue. It's about transparency and accountability. And so first and foremost, I'm glad we're finally having this discussion. When the administration came to us on the 17th of March and asked us to close down facilities, it seemed like they were acknowledging that the opening and closing of facilities, that power rested with the board. And so I would love to have a board discussion about coming back online, first and foremost. What concerns me is that 15 minutes ago, the director of the CDC just walked back some of the statements that were made about COVID-19 not being as transmittable, that people who are asymptomatic can very easily transmit it, that was something that was erroneously put out there. Something else that concerns me is when I do a news aggregate, right, because I don't like biased news, so I go to a site that looks at news articles that are being discussed by people in large. And so of all of those things, the only 3 about COVID-19, there were 3 articles, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and then this new one from the New York Times. All 3 of them were about A, states that reopened too early, 11 of them, all seeing increased cases of COVID-19. B, other 12 states seeing an increase in COVID-19. So that's part of my concern. I think about the fact that I talk with other clerks frequently. And that first week, March 17th, people were like, they didn't get it. I said, we just closed down. They thought we were absurd for closing down. And they were making jokes about like, well, you know, I guess I can't go to Basement Burger Bar. And then I had to text them like, oh no, Basement Burger Bar just closed. Like a private employer, the governor shutting it down, closed their doors. And they didn't realize the severity of the situation. And so as much as I want to look at Livonia, Farmington, or Novi, or Dearborn, I'm not as concerned about communities that didn't get the severity of this issue when we did, and also who have the same amount or less population and twice as many COVID cases than we have here in Canton Township. We made the decision to close early our facilities, and we have not seen the spread that other communities have seen up to this point. So yeah, that concerns me. Maybe kids can't be hurt as much by COVID-19, but guess what? They can transmit it. They can transmit it to somebody who will end up in a hospital bed that should be reserved for somebody else, who shouldn't necessarily have COVID-19. So for me, I think about the oath, my oath of office, right? What did I swear to kind of do here? So first and foremost, we're going to follow the law. And the law is, even on June 15th, You cannot do sports and activities where people can't social distance 6 feet. So if there's contact, it's illegal. If other communities are willing to look the other way, that's fine. But I'm not. It's against the law. So the first and foremost is the executive order. Is it legal? Is it safe? COVID, so what are the guidelines from the CDC and other organizations? And then thirdly, is it financially responsible or prudent? Because I look at some of these facilities that have closed. They are not revenue-generating facilities. They are heavily subsidized to the tune of between 5 and 10% of our budget. So like 5 to 10% of my tax dollars go to these facilities to keep them up and running, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. They're great. They're gems. They're lovely. But at the end of the day, I'm running an election, and the Secretary of State decided to mail an application to every voter in Canton Township, which means my workload is going to double. But we made the decision financially to furlough our staff to 3 days. We laid off people from the township. So we've got a roads program that's ramping up that needs to be inspected by people. We've got a sidewalk program we're going to be talking about in a minute. That stuff needs to be inspected by township staff. And we've got probably 20,000 absentee ballots that are going to be delivered to people in a reasonable time for them to vote it, so I don't disenfranchise voters. And those are core governmental functions that I'm concerned about us delivering those services, because we made an economic choice to protect this township, to make sure we're financially responsible. So what concerns me is, if we do see a loss of state share revenue to the tune of $700,000 or $800,000, if we do see $1.2 million of lost revenue, ancillary revenue, that's a $2 million hole. What concerns me is, how much do we raise fees? How much do we raise rent for these people who like to use our facilities? Or how much are we willing to raise people's taxes to make up for that? That's what concerns me too. So for me, the decision about the facilities, because I was in that room, I have the luxury of being a legislator up here and being an administrator like the supervisor and like the treasurer. So I was in that room when we discussed this and when we discussed the overall plan. Because to be honest, you've got a couple of scenarios here. Things open up, which we're doing, right? The state's opening up in measured response, and things could go great. COVID cases don't spike like you see in other states necessarily. They don't spike. The economy continues to roar forward. We don't see a recession. That's fantastic. Awesome. That's maybe a 33% chance of that happening. What if we open up and people decide, I'm going to spend a little bit less money. I'm not comfortable going to some of this stuff. So participation decreases. Well, now our subsidy, because that's our revenue, right? So our subsidy increases. And that's something financially we aren't prepared to handle. And the third alternative is things open up and there is a bounce. And I don't know how you recover from that. So the problem is that 66% of that time, 66% of my options are unacceptable. So I'm really rolling the die, hoping things open up and we get 100% participation, but we can't because of splitting things up in 50% participation, and so you're automatically going to have to increase the cost of things. Or things open up and hospital beds get filled and it spreads worse and we all go back to our homes for another round of social isolating. So what concerns me is I hope that social isolating fatigue doesn't push us into a situation where we either make bad financial decisions or put the public health in jeopardy. I think there's reasonable changes maybe to the plan that was put out to the public. I think, and that could be discussed, right? Pavilion rentals maybe, doing obviously like play structures maybe, right? That might be something that's reasonable. Practices for sports could be reasonable. I think those are all reasonable things. But that said, I think part of the reason why certain dates were thought of is we thought with, when are we assuming that this is going to be lifted? And when will we know if there's a consequence for the lifting of some of these bans? When will we know? And so how many weeks from the date you get COVID to you start showing symptoms, to you die if you are one of the unfortunate in Michigan right now, 9.6% of the people who contract COVID who pass away, which is a very scary number. That's the discussion we had. We also discussed, the governor keeps talking every week. Every week she comes out. Things may change, they may not change. Can we strategically run the township on a week-by-week basis? What is the impact to other departments who have statutory functions? The Treasury, which is going to go into tax season in July. The Clerk's Department, which is going to run a record-breaking election with a furloughed staff. So, you know, I appreciate everybody's concern. I completely get it. I completely get it. I am going crazy at my house. You know, I really am, and I miss the social interaction. I miss normal life, but at the end of the day, like, we're stewards of the public resources, and we have to kind of think about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. All right, to wrap this conversation up, study session, Jade, Greg, Wendy, as soon as we can possibly get it scheduled, let's get it done. I know a lot of your work is started. The entire leadership team, in terms of the opening documents, those are getting closer to maturity, hopefully be presentable maybe next week. The finances, I know Wendy has spent a lot of time on the finances, and the full-time electeds have been exposed to and seen a lot of information, including some today on the finances. There have been hours and hours of discussions and debate. None of these decisions are easy. And nobody is taking anything we're doing lightly, nor are we doing anything arbitrarily. I personally want to see us get it open as quickly as we possibly can, as long as it's safely, as everybody else has stated. The information I'm using personally in my role here is what's the CDC saying, what's the governor saying, and then I do look at my peers, all the mayors and supervisors from the southeastern Michigan region. What are they doing? Some people are taking some risks. Some people are a little more optimistic that there's not going to be a bounce back. The other thing that I look at every day that I share publicly is the Wayne County data on a number of cases. Last night there's 2 new cases, no new deaths, which is a good day in my eyes, that there's no deaths today. So none of this is easy, and I think those of you who are interested, when the study session gets posted, I'm sure that'll be a Zoom meeting, not a public hearing like this, or public meeting. I think that leans itself.
So we potentially could, but we lose the ability to have Zoom meetings as of June 30th. We will have to go to normal meetings.
This study
for
session
July.
is going to happen a lot sooner than June 30th.
Okay.
This is hopefully next week, the end of next week. Jade, I'm going to look to the directors for how quickly we can, because I know there's a lot of material that you're being asked to pull together. A lot of the bulwark is done. It's now just making it presentable to the public. And then also the concept of, you know, Anne Marie brought up, I don't know if you got a bug in my office, but Greg and I actually talked about exactly what you just said. It's a great idea. Some of these smaller theater groups, it would be awesome. Do it out at the pavilion. That'd be fun. And maybe we put up a tent. Yeah, I know, but maybe you put a tent where the audience sits. I don't know. So, guys, we can be creative and work together and go work through Greg to make that happen. The other thing that there was some criticism thrown out, and it's semantics is at play here. And there was a press release done early on announcing dates. And I think the words used were trustees administratively. And that was a play on words that was not very concise, which created the confusion, right? And what that intended to say was the leadership team with the full-time electeds made some decisions. Now what we're doing is we're bringing the rest of the trustees into the conversation, and they'll get up to speed the same level that the full-time electeds are in the study session that might happen in the next week, worst case 2 weeks out. 1 week we can do it, Jade? In a week, are we ready? I mean, I'm putting you guys on the spot. Yeah? All right, so.
We're not ready, but we will be.
I'm sorry?
Said we're not ready, but we will be.
Okay. All right. Give me a call tomorrow, because I think we're wrapping up this conversation. Fair?
Yeah, and there is an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comments. If anybody wants to stay through the entire agenda, you can make an additional public comment at the end.
Actually, it's not on the agenda, sir.
But that is our board rules.
Okay, all right, fine. I'll call for public comment again. All right, moving on in the agenda, call for a motion for payment of the bills.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, now we are going to move into public hearing for the 2020 sidewalk program. I need my glasses back on. We've got 3 motions here. And where is... Public hearing number 1. Let's see, in summary, the sidewalk ordinance became effective on July 1st, 1999, and was amended on August 2nd, 2001. The ordinance was adopted to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the Charter Township of Canton through adoption of regulations concerning construction, maintenance of sidewalks within the township. The sidewalk ordinances require township to hold a public hearing regarding the necessity of repairs for the 2020 sidewalk repair program. In terms of background, the township is targeting the subdivision's residential and commercial owners located in the public road right-of-way in the consolidated area known as Zone 5. The targeted subdivisions this year are located south of Cherry Hill and east of Canton Center in Cherry Blossom Estates, Franklin Palmer Estates, Glengarry Villages 3, 4, 5, and 6, Glengarry Woods, Greenbrook Village 1 and 2, Kingston Estates, Lexington Square 1 and 2, Noland Estates, Nolan on the Court, Pine View Estates, River Park 1, 2, and 3. This year's program represents the 21st year of the sidewalk repairs. Since the program has started, notice of public hearing has been properly advertised, and letters were provided to the residents affected. And do we need a motion to go into the public hearing? Yes, we do.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to open the public hearing to hear comments on the necessity of sidewalk repairs pursuant to the Township Sidewalk Ordinance, Sidewalk Repair Program Policy, and as provided in Public Act 80 of the Public Acts of 1989 at 6:07.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye. Aye. Okay, we are now in public hearing. Jade, is there material you'd like to present first, or would you have the public come up, speak first? What order would you? Typically, in the past, what we've done is you make the presentation, then public comment. Is that?
Yeah, that'll be fine, because maybe there are some questions that will be answered during the presentation.
Okay.
So I can
All
present
right, so
first.
we'll ask that the residents hold off questions until the end of the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
If that's okay with the board. Okay, so I'm going to go through a brief presentation tonight in regards to the sidewalk repair program. This presentation has been altered a little bit from the full version that's actually on the website, which has a little bit more detail, which you can visit on the township's website. The sidewalk program was established in 1999. It's in its 21st year, and it came as a result of a 1997 Michigan Supreme Court decision. The full program details are in Chapter 62, Article 2 of the ordinances, and it is really to reduce the liability from injury and claims and to improve the appearance of the community. The first cycle of the program, when it was first initiated in 1999, it took 16 years to get through the entire township through consolidation and relooking at the program over the course of time, and now it takes 10 years to cycle through the entire township. Concerns and questions are handled through the engineering department, and it's overseen by Erica Hidalgo, who is here tonight to answer any additional questions. So after we get through with this and we hear any public comment, if there's specific questions about your property or the letter you may have received, Erica will be here in attendance to answer those questions. This year, this is also on the website. It has all of the zone maps that have the affected areas for the particular years. These are the zones for the next 6 years, including this year. and Zone 5 is going to be done this year, which includes south of Cherry Hill, east of Canton Center. The map was included in your packets. It also was included in the public hearing notices. But you can actually see the neighborhoods there that are being affected with this year's program. So when we do the sidewalk repair program, there's 3 types of work that they do conduct each year. One is warranty work on previous year's worth of work, so the contractor comes back and completes the warranty work. We have the current construction repair, which is actually truly what this public hearing is about. And then they also go out and they look for the future marking and quantities so we can prepare for 2021's projects. The inspectors do mark slabs to be repaired with red or green paint to indicate if they're repaired is the homeowners or the townships. And there's 2 different colors. Red meaning that the township will be responsible for that repair, green meaning that the resident or owner of that property is responsible for the repair. So now I just want to briefly go through some of the things that the inspectors look for when they're out there determining whether a slab of sidewalk needs to be repaired. And we've included some pictures with some of the various different types of terminology that they use in the industry, from sidewalk displacement to spalling sidewalk. And there's a little bit of a description. I'm not going to go through each type of repair that's needed. If there's more questions in regards to a particular type of repair that's needed, by all means, stop me. Spider cracking, which is really small fissures. It actually looks like a spider in the cracking, or larger cracked sidewalks. Ponding of water, back switch or back slope, heaving of a sidewalk. Utility repairs, so this would be a portion of the sidewalk that may have been removed to damage from a utility repair that would need to be repaired. And then township-owned utilities, such as sanitary manholes and or water system gate valves. There's also some other repairs that may be that the township would be responsible for, which would be the storm sewer manholes, which are actually owned by Wayne County. Canton Township does take care of that. And you can see in the example on that one that you've got green and red dots. We take care of the flags that are immediately affected with the manhole. If there's anything that goes beyond that, then that is on the owner. We also look at ADA compliance throughout the affected area to make sure we're complying with the ADA regulations as far as ramps go. And the ramps are taken care of by the township as well. That's not put on the homeowner. Medians and common park areas. We have a lot of subdivisions in the community that have associations. If there are sidewalks that are along common areas, or they're in the park area, that is actually billed to the homeowner association. So if there's questions about that, the association is actually responsible for that, as well as bringing them up to ADA guidelines. This is just kind of a note here that it's the duty of every homeowner of their property to maintain and keep the sidewalks and driveway approaches in a condition that's reasonably safe for the public. As we transition and repair the sidewalks, we need to make sure that also the approaches are safe for the community as well. So the process. We talked last year, the contractor would have gone out and identified the areas for this year. Public notification is sent out to all of the affected homeowners, and the public hearing is set here tonight. The letter that is received by the homeowner actually has their estimate of what's actually going to be repaired and contact information for the township in case there was any further discussion that they would need to have. And then from that, the resident or business owner has 60 days from the date of the public hearing, which is tonight, to do one of the following, which is one, either replace the sidewalk, that is their responsibility, or do nothing, and the township will actually come in and do that. I must say that the dates on this, this presentation was prepared. We usually start this program June 1st, construction-wise, but because of COVID-19 and the delay in that, the process has been delayed. So here we are tonight. We're about 2 months behind. I got ahead of myself. So that really is, I mean, that's the sidewalk program in a nutshell. You can see here that this is to provide safe pedestrian travel for the residents and the visitors that we have to the community, and make sure that there's no liability on the township. So that's a real high-level overview. If there's questions, I'll be more than happy to answer questions. Like I said, Erica is here. She's standing up right now. If there's any questions, Erica can answer them.
Erica, raise your hand so everybody can see you. Very good.
Yeah.
So for specific questions related to, your dots and squares and the hows and the whys, let's start with any comments or questions that you have generically, and then we'll determine whether we can answer them generically, or if we need to have Erica go out in the hall and kind of work with you, or maybe even come back for a re-inspect if that's requested. So by a show of hands, who's here to ask questions or talk about sidewalk? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, if you could kind of split, and again with the microphones, but separate yourselves about 6 foot apart if you could, socially distanced and all. I appreciate it. So those that have questions, now is the time to move to the microphones. I'm sorry? No, the public hearing's open. This is it. We're having it now. And then we'll let residents speak, determine whether or not we can answer their questions right here on the spot, or if Erica needs to meet with them privately, and then after that, board comments and close out. Okay, so stage right, please, first.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Maxwell. I actually don't live in Zone 5, but my sidewalk was marked anyway. I live in Canton Country Acres. My comments, concerns, like all of this for my husband and I has been going on for about a year. Last year, we had a water main break as a result of another water main break in our subdivision. So ours was the secondary water main break for that weekend, which was very unfortunate for us. But anyway, so that started, that was back in, I think, May. We started calling about when they were going to put the sidewalk back in and take care of all the dirt piles and the sod and repairing our yard, basically. And the sidewalk finally got repaired on June 18th last year. And after it was repaired, and we did take some photos, there was a lot of soil and dirt that eroded over time in the following couple of weeks before the sod was brought in, just from all the rain that we had last summer. And because of that, it compromised the dirt underneath for a few blocks further up from where the repair was actually completed. And I called and called and called numerous times and spoke with so many different people. And for tonight's purposes, I wish that I had documented to let you know that we have been trying to get this completed for over a year now, for over a year now. So I had called the engineering services department on the 23rd and 24th, I know that, of last June, to discuss the dirt that needed to be replaced. And they finally came out and put the sod in, but for the block that I had been discussing with them, it sank down because it had been compromised from the repair that had been done, delayed, the repair that had been delayed for so long. And then we had our baby, and life happens, and then we got this notification in the mail in March about the sidewalk that needs to be replaced, and that is our responsibility. And so when we got it in the mail, everything shut down like the next day, so we couldn't call and ask anything. So then when we got another notification in May, that's when we started calling again, and my husband actually spoke with Erica about coming out and getting a reassessment done, because we'd been trying to get this completed for over a year, And she had spoken with him and talked about, okay, yes, I will let you know when someone is going to come out and do a reassessment. We never got that notification. Someone came out and did a reassessment, and we didn't get to talk with them. And I have photos of the day that they came out and did the reassessment and the day before, and the sidewalk squares in question are next to a tree. Not all of them are next to this tree. And yes, one of them is split, probably because of the tree, but the other two, nothing to do with the tree. I mean, the water pooling in the water pooling on the sidewalk, it would be pooling away from the tree, not into the tree. Like, it makes no sense. And, you know, we've been trying to get this resolved for over a year, and I'm fine, you know, we're fine with paying for a couple of the squares, but these other 2 squares, we don't think it's our responsibility. So, thank you.
I think it's probably worth for Erica to take a trip out to your residence, take another look, and maybe communicate back with Jade in terms of what your findings and thoughts are. So I guess, here we go. Erica, can you go out in the hallway and meet, and then set up a time where you guys can meet separately? And then, Bill, we still got you in the wings in case we have an engineering question. So I appreciate it. Bill Surchek, also from engineering's with us.
Thank you.
All right, so they're going to go out in the hallway, out in the back, or the main hallway. Yeah, I think they'll find each other.
Hi, I got a comment from one of the residents that, you know, over here, the couple.
Okay.
They have difficulty speaking, so they asked me to read this. They said the sidewalk on northbound side of Denton. The sidewalk on the northbound side of Denton, just south of Cherry Hill, is getting worse. It's very uneven. It's in a couple of areas.
Okay. Jade, if we could make a special note, his wife's wheelchair bound, and so traversing through there is difficult. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll circle back to you. Can you guys send me an email? Yeah, send me an email, and then we'll make sure we follow up on the specifics.
Yeah, I'm taking notes, and we'll follow up with everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, guys. How you doing? Good to see you. Okay. Sir, please.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Jerry Heiss. I live on Admiralty in one of the Sunflower subdivisions, and my sidewalk was marked. I have spoke to Erica, and she's been very cooperative and very easy to get along with. And some of my concerns, however, are the reason I'm on the miscellaneous sidewalk repair program. I'm not part of your one that you're doing now. It's miscellaneous. She came out, they came out last fall and marked it. Part of the issue is the tree that's planted by the city is the roots are what's causing the problem for the sidewalk. So back in '06, I went through this process of replacing, the city came in and replaced the sidewalk. In '06, it was stamped right on the side, and now they're replacing it again because of the stupid roots of the tree, which is causing the problem. That's my first concern. So, I mean, when they do it, I would like to see them, take the root, cut that root out so that we don't have the same issue again. I think that's, in looking at the sidewalks in Canton or in my neighborhood, I noticed that is it's not just my sidewalks that are affected. There's a lot of sidewalks that are affected by the roots of the trees that were planted. Let's see. The other concern, the other point I'd like to make is the timeliness of it. I understand that. Did I hear correctly? It's going to be done between June 1st and August. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And what kind of a notification will we have when they're going to do our sidewalks?
When the contractor mobilizes, and Bill, you may have to jump in here, but tonight starts the 60 days, so at least 60 days from now is when the contractor will mobilize and work through them in a systematic way. So I don't know that I could give you an exact date.
With the 1,000, typically 1,000 parcels that we look at, we do not give individual notifications to each resident. But usually you can see the contractor move into an area.
Okay. There's a sprinkling system that's, there's heads that are right on these, real close to these sidewalks, replacements. And so what precautions are there for that?
Usually, because the sprinkler head actually costs $7 to $15, many times they'll just take it out and replace it a week later. So we get a lot of calls from people after they've come through, and they'll come back and replace those heads.
Who pays for that?
The contractor.
Okay,
It becomes easier for them to just take it out and do their work.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Lash, and I live on Hanford Road. About 2 years ago, I came into the engineering services office and mentioned that I needed one slab on my sidewalk replaced because it was cracking, and over time it got larger. I was told that my area was not in the plans to do any work 2 years ago, and finally, last year, someone, or the engineering services group, marked 7 slabs on my sidewalk, which were replaced for a tune of approximately $1,500. In addition, when the truck came to remove the slabs, it made indentations in my lawn so that my lawn, whenever I cut it, is very uneven. It slopes down, picks up, slopes down, and it's a mess. So, getting on to this year, I was given notice that both myself and my neighbor's property were being repaired. My neighbor's property for approximately $6,000 or maybe even a little more. My property, approximately $3,000 more, in addition to last year's $1,500 that I had to pay. I'm retired, and Social Security and other odds and ends don't go too far. I recently spent over $11,000 on funeral costs for my mother, which was not COVID-19 related. And the areas that the new sidewalk was put in last year, service department came and planted quote-unquote grass. And I dare anyone in this area to come here and look at this bag full of weeds that I have. And you guys are talking about cleaning the area up and making Canton look good. Well, this doesn't make Canton look good. It doesn't make me look good because it looks like I'm not doing my job. I talked to the engineering supervisor last year. I went into the area and had a similar bag of these weeds, and I said, and he said that he would send someone out to look things over. Well, I never heard anything from him. I never heard of any person X that he may have sent out, and I'm frustrated. Okay, my neighbor's sidewalk has been in the same condition for at least 16 years since I moved in 2004. And now you want to hit my neighbor for $6,000 plus, and she's retired also, and her house is in a trust. So it's very curious that she is picked on. And consequently, her work being done has to fall in, my sidewalk adjacent to hers falls in line. And a lot of these slabs that you guys want to replace are in good condition. There's no cracks, no nothing. I don't understand why I have to pay for that type of repair if it's not broken or it's not a safety issue. Well, I guess it all gets down to, I get it. This is government, and at its best, a complete money grab. That's exactly how I feel on this. I request to have my house reviewed and kicked down the road for when the normal process, if my subdivision is in the rotating process. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, can I get your address?
43833 Hanford.
And can we get your phone number? Could you jot down your phone number for us?
Jot it down, I'll give it to you.
If you give it to us, that's fine, if you're comfortable, please.
734-612-0704.
Okay. Jade?
I got it.
Okay. Someone's going to be visiting you soon.
Yeah, how soon? Sometime in June?
Make me coffee tomorrow. I'll come over tomorrow morning.
You got donuts too?
We can probably work that out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, please, sir.
My name is Rob Knebber. I live at 387 Princeton, Lexington Square. That's basically Cherry Hill and Sheldon corner. Received your letter of May the 9th. Let's go back about 2 years ago. 2 student interns came out, donned with red vests and hard hats and green paint, and proceeded to start spraying this and that all over the sidewalk. I asked them, I said, what's your criteria? And they didn't. They said, if it looks like a crack, it's a crack. Okay, fine. Well, I get the letter now, and it appears that you're working on data that's over 2 years old. I would request that you come out and take a look at this again to see exactly where we are and what it's going to be. With the pandemic going on, this is going to be expensive, and I'm not real eager to throw out any more money than I have to. I have not seen a inspector per se come by. If one has come by in the last 2 years, I have not seen him. It's been a while. I'd also like somebody with a little bit of concrete knowledge, like how many bag mix are you using? Are you using mesh? Are you using 4x4, 6x6, on and up to there. And if they could explain that to me, that would be an asset. There's no doubt about it. There are sidewalk areas that need to be repaired. I also understand it enhances the value of the property, and I appreciate all of that. But I think we need to review this and a few other places in the Lexington Square complex to see exactly where we're going with this. So if anybody wants to contact me.
Yeah. Could you go out in the hallway and see if you can catch Erica and give her your name and address and number, and Erica will come by?
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, go see if she's still in the hallway talking to the residents.
Yeah. She's going to stay till it's over.
Okay, so she's out there. So please go give her your information, and Erica will come visit you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, very
Have
good.
a good evening. Stay safe.
Thank you, you too. Any additional, I think everybody has figured out that Erica's the expert here and is out in the hallway talking. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak at this point regarding sidewalk program this year? Okay, no other speakers. I would call for a motion, second motion to close the second hearing, close.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to close the public hearing after hearing the comments on the necessity of sidewalk repairs to township sidewalk ordinance, sidewalk repair program policy, and as and as provided in Public Act 80 of the Public Acts of 1989.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. A third motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adopt the attached resolution requiring replacement of sidewalks in Cherry Blossom Estates, Franklin Palmer Estates, Glengarry Village number 3, Glengarry Village number 4, Glengarry Village number 5, Glengarry Village number 6, Glengarry Woods, Greenbrook Village number 1, Greenbrook Village number 2, Kingston Estates, Lexington Square 1, Lexington Square 2, Nowland Estates, Nowland on the Court, Pine View Estates, River Park number 1, River Park number 2, River Park number 3, and miscellaneous locations as indicated on the attached list and published in the Canton Eagle on February 20, 2020 and March 5th, 2020.
Those in favor of the third motion as
I
presented,
would like
please say aye.
to make a comment, if I may.
Oh, please.
And this gets into, it's a carryover conversation from the previous conversation about, so a number of residents have come out today to talk about concern over their particular concrete slabs. And I know a number of people who didn't come out today who also have concerns about their particular concrete slabs, probably large. It always is large. It's a large number of people. I also am aware that we had the good fortune of adding an additional FTE or adding an additional employee from the inspections side. It would be handling some road stuff, I believe, and some sidewalk stuff. So I'm very comfortable with that. But again, one of my biggest concerns, and this gets into the decision we made to put staff on furlough, and is ensuring that we can meet the residents' expectations, that they're going to have a township representative there, negotiating things with the contractor, making sure the quality is there, but additionally, keeping an eye on the testing, the review of this program. It's very important to me that, especially when we're putting in infrastructure that is costly, some of it obviously paid for by the township, but most of it being paid for by the residents, that what is put in to last, and that corners aren't cut. And so I think we need to be mindful as we embark on these large projects, the election, the roads program, this sidewalk program, that we don't look for opportunities necessarily to, our budget cuts or our financial decisions aren't going to be made at the expense of legal requirements and the expectations of the residents. So that's my one comment. I had a good conversation with Director Smith. I am comfortable moving forward, voting that way. But I really think that we as an organization and the board as a governing body needs to be mindful that we ensure that we deliver the exceptional level of service. And even under full staffing, you've heard some comments today about people who are not appreciative of the level of service we delivered last year, for example, when we didn't have township staff on furlough. So I'm just going to hit that bell, ring that bell one more time.
Okay. Anne Marie?
Thank you. As Michael has said, a number of residents have called me when their sidewalks have been marked, and I just want to let people know that they can call the township to have Erica come out or a member of our staff come out and look at it and see, what their viewpoint is. But one thing I noticed in my neighborhood, and I'm sure it's happened in others, there's 2 areas where we've eliminated ramps, and we've eliminated, I believe, because they didn't go anywhere supposedly. However, what's happened is if there's a bus that stops there, the snow piles up and the kids are walking now into the street and in between the curb and the bus and in an icy, snowy area to get onto the bus. And I don't think that was done on purpose, but I think we need to increase our communication with the schools and the bus drivers. And if they see that, they need to point it out, because I've noticed that at my house. I have my kids, wait until the bus pulls away a little and then she stops and lets kids out, but that kind of brings her out into the middle, her or him out into the middle of the street. So those bus stop areas are really still tricky, and I think we've closed down some ramps that we shouldn't have, or maybe obviously have the bus stop in another area, but that's...
Yeah, and I don't have the history, maybe Bill does, but I can say that sometimes those random sidewalks get put in by homeowners without the township's knowledge because the bus stop's there. So when we see them, it's not a coordination between, but it's just a sidewalk that was never approved to be there to begin with. But we can open up some communications with the schools, but I would think that, I don't even know if the schools know that those particular sidewalk pieces are there. They assign the bus stops, but the sidewalk piece was probably put in by a private homeowner, I would assume.
Historically, in my neighborhood.
But we will definitely reach out. We can look at that.
Okay.
So call the schools, okay, thank you. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Any additional board comment? Seeing none, those in favor of the third motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That concludes moving on to G1. Consider approval of Canton business support provision in response to COVID-19 pandemic.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the Canton Business Support provisions for a limited time period beginning June 10, 2020, and ending on October 31, 2020, allowing for extended outdoor dining and sidewalk sales as detailed. Attached.
Support.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been devastating to many local businesses in Canton Township. In support of these businesses and to allow them to take measures to recover from the last 3 months of reduced productivity and service, it's imperative that the township take action to assist where we can. The establishment of Canton Business Support provision will allow for eased restrictions on outdoor dining and sidewalk sales where appropriate. This provision will allow for easy application and approval process to allow outdoor dining and sidewalk sales from June 10th through October 31st. And in each and every case, safety is the #1 priority for the inspectors. And Chris and Jay can speak to that if the board has any questions. So are there any board questions? Go ahead, Stephen.
Have we had a lot of requests for this? Do we know?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, we have.
Yeah, I actually have, we've had 2 formal requests, and we've already had conversations with some of the restaurants and bars on Ford Road that are looking at it. I'm actually visiting one on Monday with Amy Hamilton to talk to one of the owners, so it's going to be a good test to go through the next few months and see how popular this is and if we want to do something permanent moving forward.
In some cases, will it be parking lot? Like
Yes.
blocking off spaces for people to have tables? Okay.
Yes.
I figure that we're not really like Northville or Plymouth where they're talking about closing down Main Street, so, but there might be a case I'm not thinking of,
How
but.
much fun would
Yeah,
that be
and
to
we've-
shut up down Ford Road?
Yeah.
We, public safety is definitely in the discussions on this, the fire marshal, the building official, myself, so we're looking at all of these requests that come in on a case-by-case basis to see what this looks like and how we can assist the businesses.
Great, thanks.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Additional question, I think, in some ways tragedy can be opportunity, right? And so with regard to COVID-19 forcing us to reevaluate things, have we given any discussion, have we had any discussion about potential food trucks and maybe if we would want to allow them into Canton Township, or where are we at on that?
Well, that was a segue.
Well, yeah, that's a nice way to segue into that. Yes, we've had conversation about food trucks, but I think it might be a different animal, but absolutely, I think it's something that we should incorporate into a future discussion.
Maybe staff next week, we can have a conversation in that vein. Okay. Anything to add, public safety, Chris?
No, not at this time.
Nothing. Okay. Go ahead, Anne Marie.
Thank you. So in terms of this, I think this is a great idea. I mean, I know our businesses want to get back. So in the parking lot, are we looking at, depending on the size of the restaurant, opening it up that much they get, or it's not, it's just a case-by-case basis? And what about those that don't have sidewalks in front of them or parking lots in front of them? Do we allow them to share like the next door area? Or?
So I think the way this is written is the language is pretty loose for interpretation, so we can look at it on a case-by-case basis. If they don't have a sidewalk or a parking lot, it's going to be really hard to allow them to do anything. If they do have something that's shared, they probably could contact the other owner of that parking lot to see if they could utilize something, but it has to be adjacent to their building, too.
Oh, adjacent, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
And just to make sure everyone understands too, this is not allowing them to do anything that they could not do without permission from the Liquor Control Commission.
Right.
So if there's another sort of license or permit that they have to get from the LCC, that is over and above what we're doing.
Okay. Seeing no further comments, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item G3, because we did delete G2, consider approval of budget amendment award purchase order contract to Manic Smith Group for additional engineering services for the historic Ford Factory Pathway Project.
This is the form of two motions. Mr. Supervisor, oh, that's fascinating. I move to approve a budget amendment to fund the design and construction engineering expenses as listed.
Support.
Okay. In 2015, Township agreed to fund the design and construction of the path, pedestrian bridge on Cherry Hill Road, west of Ridge along the frontage of the future Arts Factory. The funding for this project included transportation alternative TAP grant that was applied for by the township jointly with Wayne County. The TAP grant was approved by MDOT and SEMCOG for approximately $262,000 in 2017. At that time, the township entered into an IGA with Wayne County, who is the receiver of the grant funds, which pass along to the township. Under the IGA, all additional funding must be provided by the township. The project was bid a couple of years later in 2018. The bids were reviewed by MDOT. The pricing was significantly higher than anticipated at the time. The township considered rejecting the grant. However, the final decision was to redesign the bridge to attempt to achieve some cost savings, which was done. The township approved our designer of record, Manic Smith, to move forward with the redesign. This has resulted in a reduction of construction costs of approximately $73,000, and the project was ultimately awarded to LJ Construction by MDOT. The bridge has been installed. The project now nearing completion. Due to significant effort to review alternatives to redesign the bridge along with the extended time period to complete the construction, Engineering Services recommends the approval to change the contract with MSG as presented. Is there any board questions for Jade or Bill? Seeing no questions, those in favor of the first motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a purchase order contract with the Manic Smith Group for additional design and construction engineering for the historic Ford Factory Pathway project in an amount not to exceed $48,000 under the existent master services agreement.
Okay, those in favor of the second motion as presented?
Aye.
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 Say aye, thank you. Item G4, consider approval of two purchase orders to develop the Tyler ERP to CityWorks integration.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a purchase order and award professional services to Power Engineering Incorporated, Inc. for the implementation services in the amount of $33,507. I also move to approve a second purchase order for the purchase of Applications Program Interface API from Tyler Technologies in the amount of $18,736.
Okay, Canton Public Works is requesting permission to update the CityWorks software application functionality as part of the CityWorks strategic implementation plan. The upgraded functionality will increase the functionality and productivity for the township staff in various departments. Public Works is requesting approval for the two purchase orders to move forward with Tyler integration on the project at a cost not to exceed $52,243 for implementation services. Are there any questions for Ms. Trumbull? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item G5, consider approving annual payment of Western Wayne County Mutual Aid Association dues.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve payment of the 2020 Western Wayne County Fire Department Mutual Aid Association dues in the amount of $17,427.68.
Support.
The Canton Fire Department is a member of the Western Wayne County Fire Department Mutual Aid Association, a consortium of approximately 20 departments throughout Western Wayne, Washtenaw, and Oakland counties. This association is run under an interlocal agreement in conjunction with the Urban Cooperation Act of 1976 and allows for departments to provide reciprocal services to each other when requested. Canton's 2020 dues are for $17,427 as presented below. Are there any questions for Deputy Director Stockline? Go ahead, Steve.
I was just wondering if the pandemic has had any impact on this aspect of things, mutual aid.
Actually, our mutual aid numbers are down at this
Down.
point, so
Okay.
we were fortunate that most of the departments were able to handle that themselves, and we were prepared, so.
Great.
Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Item G6, consider purchase of a one-year extended warranty for 800 megahertz radios.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of a Motorola one-year extended warranty for 226 mobile and portable 800 megahertz radios in the amount of $18,851.50 from ComSource Incorporated, 41271 Concept Drive in Plymouth, Michigan.
Okay, as the motion states, this is for public safety, communication purposes. Are there any questions for either Chad or Chris? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G7, consider waiving bidding process and approving the purchase of personal protection equipment, PPE.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to waive the bidding process due to sole source manufacturer and approve the purchase of 100 PN69 helmets from Ultimate Training Munition and approve the purchase of 100 groin protectors and 100 gloves from the lowest quoted vendor, Ultimate Training Munitions, plus shipping for a grand total purchase amount of $23,327.93.
Support.
Okay, very good. As the motion states, PP, personal protection equipment for our police department. Are there any questions for Chad? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider addition to FOIA software.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of the online payment module for the Next Request FOIA software in the amount of $577.28 from the account number listed.
Okay, thank you. Mike's buying some software for $577. Did this require a?
Well, so here's the deal. The RBA kind of says it, but essentially the board approved some software.
Right.
Looks like public safety wants to have an online payment module, which would be an increase.
Okay.
So while this is technically smaller than what would typically come before the board,
Right.
because it's an increase in expenditure tied to a board-approved expenditure, it's required to go before the board. Again, did I explain that correctly? So that's our purchasing policy.
Very good.
You approved it at a certain amount. We're adding some stuff.
No problem.
Checked with Diane. Treasury was comfortable, I think. This is the same product, I think, that we currently use for the dog licenses.
We just need weekly reports, just as a reminder, weekly reports.
Have you been getting the reports for the dog licenses up to this point?
We had not, but we are. We've talked to
getting
Anthony,
started
so
too.
we are starting to, yes.
All right.
Very good.
We aim to serve. I'm glad. Sorry about that.
Any additional questions for Michael? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G9, consider sale of property and authorize myself to sign the documents necessary to close the sale.
Now, I'm showing I potentially have two motions, but I can't find my second page. Is there two motions or one?
Just one.
Just the one? All right, I talk. Mr. Supervisor, I move that Canton accept the letter of intent from Symmetry Management and authorize Supervisor Williams to sign the formal purchase agreement and any other documents necessary to complete the sale of the parcel located on Michigan Avenue east of the ITC corridor.
Thank you. Summer, the second. All right, this, I think everybody's seen this before, it's been talked about before. What this does, hopefully, is sets up the guy acquiring the property to move Chet's rental off of Ford Road up on Michigan Avenue, which opens the gates for our cross-access from Lilly to Haggerty. This is the first huge step in that process. So, are there any questions for myself? I know Diane had asked about the value. The assessor's office came back with how the value was arrived at. Clarification. Steve, I know had asked. Just go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was just going to, after some requests for information that I had, thanks for ensuring that in here it says that the sale, the proceeds will go towards the Community Improvement Fund for future green space acquisition, and that's all I was looking for.
150,000.
101?
150 for.
130?
150, 150 for 2.8 acres up on Michigan Avenue. Understand this is in front of the landfill, or adjacent to the landfill, I guess is a better way to put it.
And it's a
The ITC
great
corridor.
purpose that we'll be able to hopefully
Open our corridor.
open a corridor on Ford Road
Yeah.
for when we improve that
Sorry, Michael.
section.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak that, you know, one of the things we've aggressively been trying to do is increase or decrease the traffic burden on Ford Road. Clearly, we have a large project coming up. This is a part of making Ford Road more navigable, more accessible. I think it's fantastic. I mean, I'm in favor of this.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other comments, Emery, you want to make a comment or no? No? Okay,
Sorry. Glad that we're opening up for green space. That's a good idea.
very good, thank you. Okay, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G10, set public hearing for local government approval, liquor license application on tailgate garage.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to set a public hearing for consideration of the local government approval for of the request for a new Class C liquor license for the tailgate garage located at 4335 Michigan Avenue, Canton, Michigan 48188, for July 14th, 2020.
Very good. Myself and Clerk Segers and Treasurer Slavens met with J.P. Howe, representing the Fun Garage owner Hyder Hassan, and their intention is opening a modified family entertainment center in Canton Township that provides alcohol service. Given the business plan, the lack of existing business with this option in the area, the decor and recommendation for the approval is being brought forward to the entire board this evening. So are there any comments, questions, concerns on this one? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item G11. This is our final agenda item. Consider approval of emergency purchase order to replace the rooftop unit number 7 condenser coil at the Township Administration Building.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the emergency purchase order for the replacement of RTU number 7 condenser coil for the Canton Township Administration Building to Bumler Mechanical, 6260 18.5 Mile Road in Sterling Heights, Michigan, 48314, in the amount of $16,961 to be paid from the account number listed for capital outlay buildings and improvements.
Second.
Okay. As the motion states, we had the AC unit fail, or the coil fail, condenser coil fail, on top of the administration building, and by our emergency purchase process, Wendy and myself were able to sign off, get Greg going on it. Now we're presenting it to you guys. This has already happened, but it wasn't seen as an emergency at the time, so hopefully you'll approve what we've done here. That is the request. Are there any questions or comments for Greg?
So for this new coil, how long do we expect the life to last?
The coil itself should be 10 to 15 years. Now, that doesn't guarantee that that will extend the life of the rooftop unit itself, because there's another coil on there that needs to be replaced that, you know, is 15 years old, and all the other parts on that unit. So there's no guarantee that the unit itself will last, but that coil will last 10 to 15 years plus.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So as I understand it, what you're saying is there was a lot of hot air on the third floor of
Not
the administration building?
Not the first floor, though.
Thank you. Is that what I was, I'm sorry. Just want to make sure I understand.
Can't speak to that safely.
Sorry, I had.
Okay, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Items, that concludes our formal calendar for this evening. I don't know, Chad, would you like to speak maybe briefly about special event we had last night?
Yes, I'd like to thank the board members, the directors that really helped us out, put forth a wonderful event. As you know, we don't organize protests, but we played a critical role in making sure that this was peaceful, that we as a community stand against injustice. And this conversation is a wonderful conversation I think we had yesterday. Like some of our board members mentioned, maybe we could get a better microphone so we could speak better with our protesters in the future. But we had some great responses. This line of communication with our citizens and these special interest groups have been opened, and a lot of our members here today and the directors and the police directors that have come before me have set up these lines of communication. So I think we're very much situated for success. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So it's really working out for us, and I think you'll see some criminal justice reform. The conversation's open, and we'll see. I think we have some momentum, so thank you.
Very good. All right. Any other additional staff comment before we wrap up here? Trustee comments? Seeing none. Any please, trustee comments, please.
Say something. Wish Trustee Foster a happy birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. And we all want to wish you a happy birthday, Summer.
Do we want to sing happy birthday? Or
No.
It's just happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday's good. Okay.
3 languages.
Happy birthday, Summer.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a comment. Today is primary day in the state of Georgia. They did their presidential primary. Georgia, interestingly enough, typically gets 40,000 absentee ballots. So it's not a heavy absentee state. 40,000 absentee ballots for their presidential primary. They got 1.2 million absentee ballots today. So I'm really looking forward to August 3rd if that trend holds for Michigan.
It's been nice knowing you, Mike.
Yeah. If you can't find me, I will be in the clerk's office buried underneath ballots.
Got it. Very good. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Thank you. So, yes, we've had 3 peaceful protests in Canton, and thank you for the one yesterday. I'm glad that everybody is standing strong with their community and their police force, opening communication. Thank you for that. And in terms of the voting, so it's still time if people want to help you out for the elections, right, for poll workers and things like that. And how are you doing with staffing, and what is your plan to bring people back and help out with that?
So, so good question. So we have yet to, we will be sending a communication out. So typically, we handle trainings, and most of the training was done for March. We will be doing additional trainings as well in July. We have not communicated with any of the poll workers yet. Wanted to kind of get a feel for how things were going to open up, where people were at from a comfortable standpoint. So I have yet to do a call for, hey, are you going to show up and work the election August 3rd? Some people have offered that they will not be interested in working. And I did have some cancellations in March, which was actually, if you remember, the primary election was March 10th. The governor declared a state of emergency, conveniently enough, March 11th. And we shut down the township. We sent everybody home the 13th, and then we formally shut down the township the 17th, which was that next Tuesday. Later on, the president did a declaration or whatever, but nobody really understood, or some people were very keyed into COVID on March 10th, but most people weren't. They still kind of thought, hey, it's like the flu, yada, yada, yada. So I did have people under those circumstances who did not come in on March 10th because they anticipated it was going to be an event, that COVID was going to be a problem. So my assumption is I will lose some of our inspectors. And we had a challenge staffing March 10th. So the short answer to your question is I don't know yet. We will be reaching out and, staffing people for the August election. And if that becomes an issue, there's a couple of options we have. We have a CERT team, which is like a disaster response team. There are other administrative solutions we can do. The Bureau is anticipating, prior to everybody getting mailed an absentee ballot, that 70% of voters would have voted absentee for August. So my guess is that will go up to 75 to 80% of voters voting absentee, which now turnout will be up because everyone's getting their ballot mailed to them, so it's super easy to vote you know, and most people aren't going to have to worry about vacation. August is like, you know, that lowest turnout election. So what I'm estimating is we probably will see 5,000 to 6,000 people voting at the polls. And if that's the case, spread out by 40 precincts, that's pretty manageable, very manageable over a 13-hour day. So worst case scenario, I can merge precincts at one location so that people will be working in tandem on 2 separate precinct locations for those people who choose to vote in person, which would then allow me to cut my staff in half for the poll. So I've got some creative ideas I've been working on. We've got some other alternatives here. Worst case scenario is I would ask for help from the board and from administration, using township staff to do that. It's a last case resort, and there would be a substantial amount to iron out if we were to do that. And then we will just maybe do a call to arms in July to anybody who feels like they're comfortable and where we're at. Now, I met with, I think I talked about this previously. I met with our emergency management coordinator, director of police, or deputy director of police, on ways to rearrange how we run the precinct to A, be safe, but also B, accommodate people who have different degrees of comfort around interacting in a post-COVID world. So some people who, you know, so that we're going to be dealing with. So I don't really know yet, but currently we are required to run the precincts as they are under law in the locations they are with minimum staffing of 3 inspectors.
I know some people are elderly and they're concerned about it being at the polls, or poll workers.
Yeah, my average poll worker is probably 71 to 72 years old. Might not be interested in working this election. We're going to be doing everything we can to ensure that they will have the PPE they need, that we have implemented procedures to keep people safe, that we are doing social distancing throughout the process. But yes, it is, even labs like Pfizer will tell you that you cannot reduce a contamination rate to 0, a likelihood to 0. It's impossible. So there is potential exposure in everything we do.
Right.
And I don't know what to do, so I will have to handle that as it happens.
Okay.
What we can control is trying to recruit people, making sure we have the resources, and then making sure people are safe. That we have created a statistically insignificant likelihood that they would be exposed to anything.
Thanks.
And that's what we're focusing on.
And then what about our treasurer's office? You guys are getting slammed probably July 1st, then how are you going to handle residents coming in?
Well, we're going to be opening we're going to be opening Township Hall on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. And I have, I'll have staff instead of 2 days, and the furlough, they're going to come back 3 days. We're going to be very busy though, but having them there for those 3 days will be helpful because, we'll get a lot of phone calls, but just being able to be at the window to answer questions will be, it's tough with the 2 furlough days, but we'll do it, we'll manage it.
Thanks.
The clerk's office is, we've purchased and we will be implementing a drive-up drop box for absentee ballots. So that will get people who don't need to come into the building to drop their ballot off, which there's always been a drop box in the back, but people don't necessarily know that. So the idea is keep that traffic out there, and then we've talked to the library about partnership of trying to have their facilities for voter registration to try to just spread out some of that volume as the election increases. The first couple of weeks should be nice and slow and easy, give us an opportunity to practice.
So are we testing for the treasurer's office if people come in to pay?
Well, next week we'll be starting to open it up to the public,
Everybody
Tuesday,
comes
Wednesday,
to the door,
Thursday.
we get the temperature tested.
Temperature read,
At
yeah,
the
we don't have
front door.
tests.
And we'll have things on the floor, so people have to keep the social distancing. And I'm just going to have 2 of my windows open, so they're far enough apart. We have plexiglass up. My staff has masks. We have shields and hand sanitizer. And I'm sure,
Are
you
they
know.
filling out a questionnaire also?
They'll be asking them questions. I don't think they'll be,
No forms, just
Yeah,
ask
it'll be
questions.
Just
Make
ask
sure they have a
questions.
mask, ask the questions, take their temperature.
and the staff is still daily coming in and being screened, and they'll continue to be screened.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional, yes, Summer?
Just want to quickly note that June is Pride Month, and last year we had our first LGBT Pride, and we weren't able to do it this year, obviously because of the pandemic. But it's not lost on me that Pride was a result of a rebellion and an uprising against police brutality in New York City against the trans community. And yesterday we had a protest against police brutality here in our, we had the protest here in our own community. But it was great to see the support of the police department and the willingness of the police department to engage in some of these difficult conversations.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, comments, call for a motion to close.
So moved.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye. Aye. This meeting's ended. Everybody be safe. Thank you.